Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the summit. And I've got a real treat for you today. I have Meredith Elliott Powell, who, for those that don't know, is actually the current president of the National Speakers Association. But long before that, she was an award-winning speaker. She's actually a Hall of Fame speaker. So if you're looking for somebody that can tell you about what the event industry's like, and more specifically, what's changing right now, because a lot is changing, but also still knows and remembers what it's like to actually get started and recreate yourself, this is absolutely the interview that you want to watch. But Meredith, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Well, there's a lot of emerging speakers that are tuning in to this event purely because a lot of them are still in day jobs. They're trying to figure out what the speaking business is. And I think you're one of those people that keeps trying to help people realize that the speaking industry isn't just speaking on stage. There's a lot more to it, but also the speaking industry has gone through many variations, and you've had to recreate yourself many times. So I think we should really start from a foundational for those people that are looking to create themselves for the first time in this industry. Maybe they've booked a couple of gigs and they're like, you know what, this speaking career thing might be something I can do. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, and number one, I think it's such a good question. Number one is to realize that this is a business. And I think that is so important to understand that while I speak on stages all over the world and I spend a lot of time speaking, the majority of my time is running my business. And what does that mean? It means getting my marketing materials right. It means engaging with event planners. It means working on my craft and becoming a better speaker. And most importantly, dialing the phone and looking for opportunities. Definitely when you speak on stage, you've got to be really great speakers so you get referrals, but you still have to dial the phone and you still have to look for business. So the biggest piece of advice I have for anybody getting into this industry is don't think that somebody else is going to find your business. You might have support and you might have help, but it's still going to be your job every day.
Yeah, I think that's really important for a lot of people because I feel it's interesting. We had Ross Bernstein on this as well, and I mean, he runs everything himself. Him and his wife, they run the business, and he has hustled for longer than I've been in the speaking business. And I feel like a lot of people feel that you do a couple of keynotes, you get recognized, you get represented by a speaker bureau, and then the money rains and everybody just starts, enjoying the life of the speaking career. And I think for those that have lasted the test of time, they've realized that it's not a hobby-based career. It is a business. And one of the things, I remember writing 100 notes when you started talking about this with me, was the cadence of running it like a business. Whenever you make whenever you make a contact, when somebody says they'd like to consider hiring you to speak, even when somebody says we've changed our mind, we're going with a different speaker, you're always contacting these people. You're always trying to find different ways to get in contact. So let's go to that specific topic for a second. And I want to imagine that the people that are listening, they've got a contact list. They've had a few people that said we're considering, or people that they want to reach out to and just hope that they book them as a speaker. What is the cadence? And for those people that don't understand what cadence is, because Meredith and I geek out about sales and sales methodology, cadence is that the contact points that you make on a constant and regular basis in order, whether it's phone, whether it's LinkedIn, outreach, whatever it is, to constantly stay front of mind for the people that you want to one day book you, hopefully book you very soon. But Meredith has really put this down to I'm not going to say an automated process, because I feel that most people that say that are lying to you, because that lacks the personality, but really these personal contact points, and she's mastered the art of doing that, which is why she's been able to grow a brand. So Meredith, what is it that you do that allows you to constantly stay front of mind?
I love that you brought that up, because it's number one, you better get used to rejection. This is such good timing to ask me this question, because I lost 2 gigs this morning. I mean, one from a meeting planner that had reached out to me and said, "You're my favorite of the 4 that I've pitched. I love you, love you, love you." She just sent me an email this morning that said, "While I loved you the most, the committee went another way. And I hope that we'll work together in the future." That is life as a speaker. So Matthew, exactly what I did was I took that. She goes into my follow-up system. I wrote right back to her and I said, I know your meeting is going to be phenomenal. I would love to stay in touch with you and we'll find another opportunity to work together. So pretty much everybody on my contact list, I make my top list of 100 that I want to speak for every year, and I touch base with them every single month. 70% of that touching base is value add. It means I'm sending them a video, I'm sending them an article, I'm making a connection for them, I'm inviting them to a masterclass. I'll probably send them this, this podcast. So it's giving them something that shows them I'm an expert that could help them do better at whatever it is. I'm the person they want to put on stage. And then 3 times a year, I'll ask for the business. But I lose business first go round a lot. And I got to stay in the game so that I'll be booked the next time. I mean, the chances that you're going to interact with somebody at the exact moment they want to hire you, slim to none.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for people, because I feel that when somebody says, look, sorry, just not this time round, people hear never. And, Keith Abraham, we also interviewed, big speaker in Australia, huge speaker in Australia. And he talks about the fact that he now has a client he makes $1 million out of every year. One client, $1 million a year. He chased that client for 10 years before they gave him a shot. And so you never know where that money is. I know personally, and people will laugh at this, but I'm booked for DEAD Talks this year. DEAD Talks, DEAD. And, I spoke there 8 years ago. Yeah. And when we tried to rebook it, they said, sorry, we never, I got a glowing review from them. And they said, sorry, we never book a speaker back. It's our policy because there's always something fresh that we can bring with another face. I'm going back this year. Why? Because I've lasted the test of time. Every year for the last 8 years, hey, how you doing? We're sending them value-based content. We're staying front of mind. And they went, you know what? We want to get this person back because we remember him being good, and so they're breaking their rule for me. I don't hear no, and you don't either. And I feel that a lot of people that aren't from the world of sales hear not this time and they hear no. And I know we're kind of breaking that speaking world dialogue to go into the sales world dialogue, but sales is 100% required when it comes to being a speaker.
It's so true.
How do you control your mindset around this for those people that have never had to learn that sales acumen, but maybe they've origin from a career job where they've never been in sales? How do you navigate that mindset of being a speaker and feeling like you've got it all on the line and really needing the deal, but also being indifferent and then constantly following up without feeling like you're being desperate and sounding like you're desperate?
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning of my career, I was desperate. And the reason I was desperate was because I was thinking about me and I was talking about what I needed and I wanted to talk about, which is a huge mistake I think speakers make. People become speakers because they want to talk about their story. They become speakers because they care about something. I am completely different now. My content is based off what I hear my customers need. And here's why that has switched to my sales mindset. Is because right now I speak on uncertainty. I started speaking on uncertainty in 2016, and lucky for me, the world just becomes more and more and more uncertain. I'm on a mission. I want to help people believe that uncertainty is their greatest opportunity. I call people not so much because I want to speak, but because I know I can help your team. So your answer to your question is the mindset will never shift in sales if it's about you. Like, anybody who is on here who doesn't believe they're in sales, think again. You got a kid to eat a vegetable. You got your car keys away from your aging parents. You convinced your spouse to go on some vacation they never wanted to go on. That is sales. And you were doing it. You get your kid to eat your vegetables because you love your kid. And I love my audiences. And I want them to hear this message because I really can help them. So you got to realize that whatever you're focused on about you, unless it can directly help the audience, you need to go out with your friends to tea or drink a beer and talk about it there. Do not get on that stage until you're relevant. And when you're relevant, sales becomes easy.
I love that comment, and funnily that you mentioned getting your kid to eat a vegetable,
Sure.
because I'm actually, and this is obviously not my office at the moment, I'm in Daytona Beach, and I literally was teaching storytelling yesterday, and I'm like, for those people that don't think they're in sales, if you want to ask your boss for a promotion, if you want to get a pay rise, if you want to start an initiative, if you want to get your kids to eat their broccoli, you're in sales, and
All day long.
storytelling is going to serve you for all of that. So, I mean, you're 100% right on that. I think that a lot of people, they feel like they're imposing, and they got into speaking because they want their story to be meaningful to other people. But you're right, they're making it all about themselves. For those people that are in that mindset and they don't know how to flip it from, I'm doing this because I want to share my story because I feel like it will help, but really I really just want to share my story, to, I feel that this is meaningful for you, and here is why. What are some of the things that you think that they should consider to take them from I to you in a lot of ways?
Yeah. Number one is I really think if you're getting into the speaking industry, you really should spend a good month or so just talking to people. Just the clients that you want to serve, go out and listen to people, and you will hear the need. You will hear what isn't being met. What are their biggest challenges? What are their biggest problems? What are their biggest goals? What can't they accomplish? If they could accomplish one thing, what would it be? And then ask yourself, of everything you've heard, what do you have the expertise to solve, or what could you have the expert? And I want to say could you, because I didn't know how to solve the uncertainty problem. I just kept hearing it everywhere, and I thought I could solve that. If I went to work and did my research and did my homework, I could help people. And so I would start there. Like, your story may be relevant. I mean, I had a story where my husband and I had a flood burned out. I come from a, really dysfunctional family. All those stories have become relevant, but not until I understood what the problem was. They weren't just relevant, they're sad, but not relevant, and so I love the idea. I mean, you're a storyteller, and this is the methodology I use in my mind, is that you can't get on a stage and speak until you know the problem, and they chase you up the tree, and you're stuck in the tree, and then you figure out how to get down from the tree, and then you can tell other people who are stuck in the tree how to get down. So you have to be more pathetic than your audience, more in more trouble than your audience, and then you have to have survived that and gotten past it, so that people have to be able to relate to you, and then they have to believe you can help them.
I think that's really powerful. One of the things I always get from you, Meredith, is this humbleness of constantly putting yourself in a place where you're like, you know what? I'll figure it out, but I'm willing to recreate myself. I'm willing to do the work. I'm not saying I'm beyond picking up the phone. I'm the president of the National Speakers Association. I'm still hammering the phone. I'm still emailing people. I'm still doing the work. Sometimes you see brand new speakers that say, no, I want to tell my story. I don't want to go out and fix somebody else's problem. I want to tell my story. I'm not willing to pick up the phone. And I'm forever saying, you're not really in the speaking business until you realize that you're solving a challenge that somebody else has, and you're willing to actually do the work. I mean, even to the point that, and you and I buddy coached each other for a little
Yeah.
while, because you were like, you know what, there's something I can learn, let's do this. And we really humbled ourselves and said, here are the gaps in our businesses. How is it that, while a lot of people in the speaking world have said, that even don't book a lot of gigs, I know everything, you're always saying, I know nothing, because I want to live in that constant development, that constant learning mindset? I mean, you've been doing this a long, long time. How is it that you've managed to maintain that sense of, there's something always I don't know?
Yeah, I think I've never really thought about that before, but as you were thinking how I'm going to answer that, Matthew, I think it is because when I stand on a stage and I look out at my audience, the very first thing in my mind is, these people have given me something very precious, and that is their time. And while I want to be fun and I want to be entertaining, that doesn't help them better their lives. And think of how precious time is, right? Like, they're not with their kids, they're not working, they're not going to do something because they gave me that time. And so I feel like I owe it to reinvent myself and give them something really, really relevant. The other thing too is that I think as speakers, we have to realize people can Google anything. So you have to be able to communicate in a way that gets them on the edge of their seat, that gets them to engage, and then gets them to do the impossible, which is take action. And that is the value of a speaker. If you can't do those three things, they can Google it. And if you don't stay relevant, they can Google you.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And you went through a phase where you were relevant, then you weren't, then you recreated yourself, and then you were relevant again. And I'm sure you live in the mindset of maybe that will change again and you'll have to recreate yourself. Where I feel like a lot of people will say, well, how do I find relevance? And then they assume that they're going to have it forever. Firstly, how are you willing to confront that you were no longer relevant? Because that's got to feel painful. And then go through the okay, I'm now open to new ideas. And I think you've covered really well how to look for those ideas, but to confront whether or not you're relevant in the first place seems to be something really tough to do from an internal basis.
Yeah, I think the first time you realize you're not relevant anymore, it's painful because you're so in love with that keynote, right? Like, and you've given it 1,000 times and you're really, really good at it. Now, I just expect not to be relevant. Like, I don't know that I ever give the same keynote twice anymore because like a month ago, I was on the tennis court and I was between two pros teaching. And they were given such great advice that I made my husband stop and I said, I need to take notes. So much of this needs to go into my keynote. Like, the stuff they're given is amazing. So I assume that my keynote isn't relevant. Now, the bigger thing I'm looking for all the time is, I thought after COVID, uncertainty wouldn't be relevant. But now we're living in a world where that's gone. There will be a point, hopefully, where the world is not as uncertain and my topic will become irrelevant. But if you're in a constant mind of listening, and if you really believe the keynote is not about you, then you hear things constantly and you're constantly updating. So like, the short version of that is, the first time it's painful because you're kind of in love with yourself and you think you're a big deal. And then you realize you're not at all a big deal. And it's just, you're only matter because the content. And the beauty of that is, if I was the only thing that would relevant, I can't fix me, but I can change content constantly so that it's valuable to people. So I think it's like that. I think you get in a mode where I just expect to be irrelevant and I got to be on my toes.
I think that's a really powerful message to send to people, because if they're not succeeding as a speaker, naturally they think it's them. And it could be their topic. It's the fact that they're not willing to confront that that topic isn't relevant anymore or was never relevant. They made it because they were making it about themselves. And I think for a lot of the people that are listening, if you were to really break this into steps, it's go and do your market research. And in sales and marketing, you learn about this, but a lot of times when you're not in that department, you kind of just assume that you create a product and people either want it or they don't. Well, the answer is you don't know what product people want until you ask. And I used to judge a lot of startup weekends, and people would go and create these ideas and they'd build them out, and then they would spend months in their garage building this product. They never walked down the street to ask if anyone would actually buy it. And I think what you've really highlighted here, Meredith, is that they need to go out and talk to people. They need to write down, like your tennis coach, the exact words that people use in order to frame it in the language that is relevant to them. And then they need to be humble enough to say, well, okay, I want to tell my personal story, but that's not what people need right now. What people need is this demonstration. And even if you don't have that skill set, fixate on it and you'll become an expert very quickly, and make sure you help them push that outcome. And I feel that that's how you've been able to constantly stay relevant in this changing time, but with a willingness to also do the work and actually contact people and actually be willing to put that little bit of hustle into everything it is that you do. Is there any other missing steps or one other, I guess, focus that people have that when they're starting, I guess, is there a secret ingredient outside the do the work and find relevance that we've missed?
Yeah, and I think it's your area of expertise, Matthew, and that is that you have to become an expert storyteller. Is that people don't. I feel like I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I'm sharing it for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll pick it up. Is that stories on a stage, people people don't understand until you tell the story. So a lot of my methodology of how I do a keynote is it's the intro. The first question is, why should you listen to me? Like, why do I care about this? And what are you going to get if you pay attention for the next 45 minutes to an hour? And then we get into the body of the keynote. You know, the body of the keynote is here's your strategy and here's the tool to take it away and implement it. But in the middle of that is the story. And that is where people go, I mean, you see the light bulbs go off, you know, like people get it. And that's what says, I understand. Now I'll remember her strategy and now I'll execute on the tool. But again, that would be the piece to me. It's you got to realize there's a lot of work that goes into this craft. You're never, ever good enough. You've got to get better.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. I mean, originally when I started speaking, I charged far less. As a matter of fact, I spoke for free when I first started. And people feel like it's unfair that the higher level speakers are the ones that get paid so much. And the truth is, though, there are so many steps that you have to get your head through and that you have to learn. And when I thought that I was getting paid well and that I knew it all, I just realized that I wasn't aware of all the things that I didn't know. And I feel the better I get, the more awareness I have of all the things that I don't know that go into stagecraft and learning how to communicate more effectively. And it's just simple things that I missed. It's funny when you go into a new industry, things that seem totally obvious in the industry that you were in somehow don't occur to you even. And I mean, for me, I remember the first time I got asked to speak. I teach storytelling for a living, yet I got up on stage and I taught them everything they needed to know about marketing. No, they never applied any of that. Yeah. Tell them less, use story, people remember it, and you provide a bigger impact. But I feel that what the message that people got from this is there's lots of things that you need to learn, but if you focus on the 3 major milestones, learn what people want, be willing to tell stories, and have a willingness to treat it like a business and do the work, anybody can succeed in speaking. And Meredith, just so everyone knows, is an introvert like me. So if we can do it, you absolutely can. And Meredith has made herself, I mean, she's the president of the National Speakers Association. She's won a ton of speaking awards. If she can do it, you absolutely can as well.
Absolutely.
For those people that are just hearing about you for the first time though, Meredith, like if people want to find their way into your world or the National Speakers Association world, which I know that you're so passionate about, how would you suggest that people do that?
Yeah, number one, I would love for people to reach out to me. I mean, there's so many people that built the bridges for me to make it happen. And I love to tell people that I gave my very first keynote in 45 minutes with 56 slides and 11-point type. Matthew is so right. If anybody can make it if I can make it into the Speaker Hall of Fame, anybody can make it into the Speaker Hall of Fame, because I had to be as bad as a speaker can possibly be. But think about joining, think about attending, going to the National Speakers Association. The state that you live in, what country you live in, I'm sure we've got a chapter. But it's there that you're going to learn the craft and learn how to build a business, and most importantly, find community. And I think for me, the community has been, the most valuable thing. I love this profession. I think when COVID happened, we should have been declared essential. We make such a difference. We give people hope. And so I encourage you, if any part of your heart wants to become a speaker, the opportunity's there. Just roll up your sleeves. It's going to take a little bit of work to get there.
That's a powerful message to finish on. And for those people, no one would possibly know this, but Meredith was living in Asheville during everything that happened, and she is still here doing this today with everything that's going on because she is so passionate about helping people in this industry. And this was the last day we could fit in the recording. So if you want to just wish Meredith well wishes with everything that's going on, or if you want to take her up on her invitation to join the National Speakers Association or just go check out a free event, please, she is forever giving with her time and to the craft of it. Of speaking. So I hope you got value out of her interview. I know I did. I never finish a conversation with Meredith where I don't feel like I got a ton of value. So Meredith, thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you so much. No conversation I love better, and always learn so much from talking with you.
Thank you. For those people that are joining us, please make sure you check out all of the other interviews, but thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.